So far, it was largely the philosophers who studied human consciousness, but a serious effort to understand consciousness and walk the path towards ultimate reality was made at the MIT World Peace University in the form of the world's first conference on consciousness, the ultimate reality. Many eminent personalities, speakers, thinkers, and philosophers from all over the world share their thoughts on this subject during this conference, focusing on the human brain and consciousness. The first session started with Dr. Ulisse Di Corpo from Rome in Italy defining syntropy, the essence of consciousness.
As everyone knows, we attribute the equation E equal mc squared to Albert Einstein, but few know that this equation had already been published in 1819 by Oliver Hafside, in 1900 by Henry Poincaré, and in 1903 by Olinto de Pretto. However, there was a problem, since this equation did not include speed, which is a form of energy. In 1905, Einstein added the momentum to the E equal mc squared equation, obtaining in this way the energy momentum mass equation, which is a quadratic equation and includes the speed of physical bodies. Since we must use a square root to obtain the value of energy, and square roots always have two solutions, and since in the momentum there is time, the energy momentum mass equation has always two solutions for energy: a forward in time energy and a backward in time energy. And since we move forward in time, the backward in time energy is for us energy that converges towards attractors. The energy momentum mass equation implies a supercausal world with causes acting from the past and attractors that retract from the future. In 1905, the backward in time energy was considered impossible, and Einstein solved the dilemma, saying that since bodies move at extremely low speeds when compared to the speed of light, we can consider the momentum equal to zero, and in this way, we go back to the E equal mc squared equation, which has only one positive solution and does not consider time. But in quantum mechanics, the spin of electrons, that is the rotation of electrons, is very fast and nears the speed of light. Consequently, the momentum cannot be considered equal to zero, and the energy momentum mass equations must be used with its convenient backward in time solution. For this reason, in quantum mechanics, we have forward in time waves and backward in time waves. We also have particles which are determined by the past and waves which are probabilistic and governed by future attractors. In 1941, Luigi Fantapié, one of the foremost mathematicians of the time, to the point that in 1950, Oppenheimer invited him to the Institute of Advanced Study in Princeton to work directly with Einstein, listing the mathematical properties of the forward and backward in time energy solution. Fantapié discovered that the forward in time energy diverges from causes and is governed by the law of entropy. Whereas the backward in time energy converges towards attractors and is governed by a law that Vantapié named Syntropy, from the Greek words syn, which means converging, and tropos, which means tendency. The properties of syntropy are energy concentration, increase in differentiation, structure, and complexity, which are the properties of life. In 1944, Vantapié wrote a book titled The Unitary Theory of the Physical and Biological World, in which he states that the physical world is a manifestation of the forward in time solution of energy governed by the law of entropy, whereas the biological world is a manifestation of the backward in time solution of energy. Vantapié suggests that life is caused by attractors, which are in the future, and that life is finalized, is future-oriented. Vantapié named this theory unitary since, according to the first law of thermodynamics, energy is a unity that cannot be created or destroyed, and entropy and syntropy are defined as the two complementary aspects of this unity. So we have a duality based on entropy and syntropy, and a unity given by the fact that energy is a unity. Entropy and syntropy are the complementary manifestations of the same unity. It is important to note that the entropic world is visible since it depends on causes placed in the past, whereas the syntropic world is invisible since it depends on attractors which are placed in the future, and we cannot see the future. Feynman and Vantapié described entropic causes as emitters and syntropic attractors as absorbers. According to Vantapié, living systems are syntropic and therefore they are energy absorbers. This is consistent with the fact that nearly all the energy that we use derives from biological masses, such as wood, coal, petrol, gas, and biofuels. The distinction between absorbers and emitters provides an interesting insight into one of the basic properties of life, the feeling of life. According to Antonio Damasio, the background feeling, which is equivalent of the feeling of life, is the fundamental element of consciousness and life. This background feeling would be a consequence of the property of absorbing energy and would be the essence of life itself, the feeling of life. If this is correct, it follows that the feeling of life, which is here considered at the basis of consciousness, is a manifestation of the backward in time energy solution and of the future. The equivalence feeling of life equal energy absorption leads to the assumption that systems based on the positive energy solution that is, systems which are physical and entropic, as for example machines and computers, will never have the feeling of life, independently from their complexity. On the contrary, systems based on the backward in time energy solution, that is syntropy, for example, life itself, should always have a feeling of life independently from their complexity. This model describes a supercausal reality made of entropic visible side and a syntropic invisible side. We can know the entropic side thanks to our five physical senses, whereas we can feel the syntropic side of reality through the feeling of life and feelings in general. Since syntropy is converging energy, when we are heading towards the attractor that emanates syntropic energy, we feel warmth and well-being in the autonomic nervous system that supports life functions. On the contrary, when we diverge from the attractor, we feel emptiness, void, and suffering. These feelings of well-being and suffering work as the needle of a compass. When we feel well-being and warmth, it means that we're going in the right direction. On the contrary, when we feel emptiness, void, and suffering, it means that we are going in the wrong direction and we must correct our path. Paying attention to these feelings is therefore fundamental in our path towards well-being and happiness. Well, this is all I wanted to tell today. I thank you again for having invited me to this conference. Thank you.